It seemed like throughout this whole entire season for the Brooklyn Nets that this year just this has the makings of just being one of those weird years where you chalk it up and say, even though we possibly have one of, if not the most talented team in the NBA, this just isn't our year. Now, it's weird to say that, especially after the Brooklyn Nets started off the season 23-9. They had a win against the LA Clippers on December 27th where they won by 16 points in LA. And like I said, at 23-9, they were looking like not only one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, but they were looking like one of the best teams in the NBA. Now, since starting 23-9, they have since gone 15-26, and a lot of it, not only a lot of it, pretty much all of it has to do with the fact that all of their home games so far, they have not played with Kyrie Irving. A lot of the games over the past 6 to 8 weeks have been played without Kevin Durant. And they still don't have Ben Simmons back, where they traded a actually playing James Harden for Ben Simmons, a guy who's not going to be playing. And the rest of the team outside of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant is just not a great supporting cast. It's a very, very, very old LaMarcus Aldridge, an old Blake Griffin, James Johnson, Bruce Brown, who is a very good defender, Patty Mills, Cam Thomas, who's a rookie, Nick Claxton, who's only in his third year, Andre Drummond, who's a rebounder. Joe Harris hasn't played all year. Really the only other guy who is a consistent threat for this Brooklyn Nets team when you don't, if Kyrie Irving or for some reason Kevin Durant are not on the floor, is Seth Curry. Seth Curry has proved not only in Philly, not only now in Brooklyn, but everywhere Seth Curry's been, he's proven to be a very solid option. Whether it's coming off the bench, whether it's being a secondary option in the starting lineup, whatever it is, Seth Curry's a good player. However, the rest of this lineup and the rest of this roster leaves a lot to be desired. And I think that's the biggest issue for the Brooklyn Nets is depth-wise, once you get past Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, it's kind of like, okay, who's going to score 15 points for your team? Because here's the thing. Kevin Durant, we saw this last year. Kevin Durant's going to score 40 to 50 points if he wants to. And while he's doing that, if he goes to the bench, Kyrie Irving's going to chip in another 20 to 25. So you're already talking about 60, maybe 70 points between your top two guys, between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. In the playoffs, it pretty much is the first to 100 points is more than likely going to win the game. So you're talking about you need 30 points between Patty Mills, Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, Cam Thomas, James Johnson, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nick Claxton, Andre Drummond, and Seth Curry. Now, like I said, Seth Curry can maybe get you 15 of those remaining 30 points, but I just think if you're going against a team like Miami, I think if you're going against a team like Milwaukee, I think if you're going against a team even like Boston, I think those teams not only hinder the chances of somebody like Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving going off for a lot of points, those marginal players, those guys like PJ Tucker, those guys like PJ Tucker is going to be guarding Kevin Durant if they play in a series. That's no question. But you know, who is Kyrie Irving also going to be guarding on the other side of the floor? Is he going to be guarding Kyle Lowry? Who's Kevin Durant guarding? Is he guarding Jimmy Butler? Is he guarding Bam Adebayo? Is he guarding Duncan Robinson for some reason? Is he guarding Victor Oladipo? That's another thing. Is just a lot of these teams around the NBA, compared to the Brooklyn Nets, this whole entire year have had a better supporting cast around their stars. In Boston, you've obviously got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Around them, you have Al Horford. You have Marcus Smart. You have these guys that are just great supporting pieces. Grant Williams. Even in places like Toronto, they don't have that pure star, but they've got two guys between Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam who have won a championship for the Toronto Raptors and have both been all-stars in their own right. And they've got guys around them between OG Anunoby, between Scotty Barnes, between Gary Trent Jr. They've got a lot of guys in Toronto. They just don't have as many guys in Brooklyn for a playoff series, even compared to, Well, I guess not even compared to last year, because last year it's basically the exact same team, but they just don't have enough, in my opinion, to just say that they're going to win the championship at this point, because now you're kind of screwed if one of these guys go down. You're really screwed if one of these guys goes down. And we've seen in the playoffs, if you're one of these teams in the playoffs, there's a really good chance that one of your main guys, whether it's the star player or whether it's just one of your key contributors from the others, one of those guys you're probably going to lose during the playoffs. It happens every year, and it's not something that I'm saying I want to happen. It's just I'm stating the obvious. These things happen. And I think a lot of people with the Brooklyn Nets, even it's something that I do from time to time, is point out the series last year versus the Milwaukee Bucks. If Kevin Durant had his toe, if his foot was 1 inch shorter, they would have won that series last year. And yeah, I like to bring that up too, but they still would have had to get through Atlanta last year. They still would have had to have gone through Phoenix last year. I don't see them beating both of those teams last year, at least in a handedly fashion, like some people just think it would have happened. You know, Atlanta was a lot better last year than they were this year. And even this year, they're starting to get back into form. Phoenix was the team that they were last year. Right now, the team that they are now is even better than what they are last year. So, you know, I don't see it with Brooklyn. Especially when you consider, like I said, they're pretty much locked into that 8 spot. So not only are they going to have to win playoff series to even get into the playoffs, let's see what it looks like right now. So Brooklyn is the 8 seed. Right now they'd have to beat Toronto to get that 7 seed. If they lose, they got to beat either Charlotte or Atlanta. That's not I'm not guaranteeing that Brooklyn can win either of those games if they have to play either of those teams between Charlotte or Atlanta. Charlotte is a team that's going to run up and down no matter who they play. And against Brooklyn, that's a team that I would hate to be playing, is the Charlotte Hornets. A team that's going to come after you every single time. And who, even though they really disappointed me last year when they had their chance at a play-in game against the Indiana Pacers, they at least have a little bit of chops under them to where they can say, okay, we at least know how the play-in game feels. We're going to be going against one of the best teams in the NBA in the Brooklyn Nets. Let's beat the brakes off them and run them off the floor. And if they're against the Atlanta Hawks, I don't know if Kyrie Irving could stop Trae Young in one game. I don't know who on Atlanta is stopping Kevin Durant, but at the same token, Trae Young could easily drop 50 on Kyrie Irving's head. He easily could do it. And that's not even me saying that Kyrie Irving is a bad defender. That's just how good Atlanta's system is at getting Trae Young open shots. Even in that, let's just say Brooklyn gets through the play-in game. Let's say by luck they win the play-in game. Or not by luck, but let's just say they win the play-in game against the Toronto Raptors. They get the 7 seed. As it stands right now, they're facing either the Bucks, the Sixers, the Celtics, or the Heat in the first round. Let's say they get through them. They're going against either, again, the Heat, the Sixers, the Bucks, or the Celtics in the second round. The only other team that they could play is Chicago or Cleveland, and I would think that they could beat Chicago or Cleveland in a series, but I'm not counting on Brooklyn to beat 2 of either Miami, Philly, Milwaukee, or Boston, because all 4 of those teams have something that Brooklyn does not, and that's an actual whole team. Even the Philadelphia 76ers, who I don't think are as good as they were pre-James Harden trade, they are a more full team around their superstar than Brooklyn is at this point. And I get it. I get all the shit that James Harden gets during the regular season, and especially during the postseason when he doesn't really show up that often. But he still is, as a point guard, one of the best point guards in the NBA. That should not be twisted at all. James Harden is still one of the best lead guards in the NBA when he wants to do it. Now, he's been injured. He's been on and off the floor with whatever issues are going on. Him leading that offense is still elite. They still have Embiid. They still have Thibault to try to throw at either Kyrie or Kevin Durant. They've still got some options there in Philly. Even Chicago. I like what Chicago has as a full team. Even Cleveland. I think there's 6 or 7 teams in the East right now. I mean, honestly, 8 or 9 if you want to consider either Charlotte or Atlanta. There's 8 or 9 teams in the Eastern Conference right now who have a more full team around their star than Brooklyn does. And that just with that said, I don't think they have a chance at winning the title this year. And like I said, it's just probably one of those weird years where you look back on it and you say, damn, we should have had a better record. We probably could have won at least 1 or 2 playoff series. Hell, we maybe even could have won the finals. But it's just one of those weird years where it's not in the cards for Brooklyn this year.